So as a perfect setup, you just had a presentation about teaching at Georgia Tech. Now I'm going to tell you about teaching at Gwinnett Technical College and Georgia State University. The session is going to be on Curricula Evolution in Artificial Intelligence for Gaming. There's me. All right. So full-time, I work at Gwinnett County Public Library as the Learning Lab supervisor. Think of them as maker spaces / digital studios. We do things like, we teach people how to do podcasting, video editing, sewing, game development, coding, all kinds of stuff. We got 9 of them across all 15 branches. That's my full-time job. I love it. I'm fortunate enough to also have a part-time job. I'm an adjunct at Gwinnett Technical College. I've been working there since 2020. And at Georgia State University, I started teaching, I started teaching there a few years ago in CMII. And yeah, it's been an adventure teaching game development. I'm going to butcher the quote, but it says something along the lines like, if you teach, you'll be taught. Definitely learn from the students along the way. So my stance on AI, and it's interesting because 2 of the classes that I teach at Gwinnett Technical College, and I have since 2020, is Introduction to Artificial Intelligence and Advanced Artificial Intelligence for Gaming. 2020 was before the big pop of ChatGPT, right? When it seemed like everything changed overnight. So now we're in 2025. I had to adjust the way I felt about AI because I found myself in quite a pickle. Here I am, an educator. Of course, in education, AI is changing everything. But one of the classes I teach is based on AI. So quite a pickle. How do I implement AI in a way that's ethical, but also teach the value of AI and keeping the students informed. So I evolved. Absolutely, when ChatGPT came out, I was like, no AI whatsoever. It's like I didn't want to acknowledge it, I'll be honest. Because in addition to teaching artificial intelligence, I was also teaching Introduction to Game Development and Advanced Game Development. And then around the same time when I started teaching at Georgia State, I teach fundamentals of game art, so we got art going on, and then programming for games too. So, and then on top of that, I work at Gwinnett County Public Library. And like was mentioned earlier, librarians are magicians, right? Librarians are very knowledgeable individuals. And there's a fear in that field as well that, because people will come up to you and be like, oh, all those jobs are going to be taken. People can just ask ChatGPT research questions. It's like, no, like what was mentioned earlier, librarians are magicians. So as an educator, and working in the library space, and as a creator, so in 2016, I kickstarted a card game that I had been wanting to make for a very long time. It's Steal the Show, a theatrical party card game. I'm a Shakespeare nerd, I'm a gamer, and what it is, it's a Shakespearean insult party card game. So I did what any logical person does who's burnt out in their career. I was working in data analytics at the time. I quit my job and I was just like, I'm gonna do Kickstarter. Why not, right? So it was a fun little time in my life, but I made 2 of the games, and it was a lot of work. As a creative, had to come up with the rules, had to play test. I'm not the best artist, so hiring artists, an artist studio, to do the wonderful artwork of the characters. We got Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, Kate. So yeah, if you're curious about Steal the Show, There is a video still on YouTube. If you Google Game Preview at Origins Game Fair 2017, you'll learn more about it. Actually, some of my students a couple weeks ago asked, they're like, what is your game about anyway? You kind of reference it sometimes. And I was just like, oh, and I pulled up that video, and they're like, whoa, that must have been like 20 years ago. Your hair is so black in that. And I was like, all right, I haven't graded your work yet, so no. But yeah, so as a creative, of course, I feel like, again, it's like, I don't know how I feel about AI, using art and things like that. So I evolved. I knew that I had to change my stance on generative AI and the use of AI in the classroom. So academic integrity, big thing. And of course, in my Fundamentals of Game Art class, absolutely not. I'm not there yet. No generative AI. But in my Programming for Games class and my Artificial Intelligence classes for gaming, I say, this is what, it's a trust thing. I say that we've all been there where we spent late nights Googling, trying to debug our code. We end up in Stack Overflow, Unity forums, all of that, 2-3 hours. So I say, if you can use generative AI to debug your code, improve your code, and it only takes 5 minutes instead of 2 hours, do it. But what I ask is that you ask your new ChatGPT friend how they did it and understand it. But most importantly, double check it. Make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Because just because the code works doesn't necessarily mean, it works with no errors, no compile errors, doesn't mean that it's working as intended. So, to reinforce academic integrity, and I did this before generative AI, I start off the semester when I'm going over the syllabus, pretty much telling a story. And I'm going to tell the story to y'all. It's going to be very brief. So in high school, I was in a math class. It was algebra. And we were learning about sine, cosine, tangent, math. I was not a math guy. But anyways, what was going on is there was rampant cheating going on in the class. It was pretty bad. Some people knew the answers, and the answers were just, spreading across the classroom during test time, and that's just the way it was. One day, my teacher comes in, and he starts complimenting all of us. He's like, you guys are brilliant. I was grading your tests. I mean, y'all are like Einstein. You can do sine, cosine, tangent in your head. You don't have to show work. And he was just going on. And you can imagine how it felt in that class. And then he goes, seriously, guys, I know you cheated. I'm not going to do anything, but know this. You cheat on a test, you're going to cheat on your taxes, and then you're going to cheat on your spouse. And you'll always be a cheater. And then he just moved on to the next topic. Yeah, so every class, I always lead with that story, and they always ask, so did you? And I said, that's not part of the story, so, but I love telling that story because I really hope that it really sinks in that you really are cheating yourself. And I find every opportunity to tell that story, by the way. Quick aside, in 2023, I was on a panel at the American Library Association conference on AI, and academic integrity came up. So of course I was like, I got a story for you. And I'd like to think that I said a lot of very intelligent things in that panel, and they were live tweeting. And this is what I'm known for. I live tweet. I always remember these words. You cheat on your test, and then you're going to cheat on your taxes, and then you're going to cheat on your spouse. Fernando Aragon. At Top Tech Trend 23. Thank you, American Library Association. So, I haven't seen the use of a meme or anything here. Maybe this has to be fuzzed out. But wise words. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? We know what movie that's from. Jurassic Park? Okay. Cool. So, evolution, artificial intelligence for gaming. Somebody didn't know Jurassic Park and had to look it up. No. So where do we go from here, right? I've been teaching artificial intelligence for gaming now for 5 years, and I can sum it up in 3 words. I don't know. I literally don't. I'm in it with everybody else. I'm learning as I go. My opinions change as there's new tools that come into the world, and that's where I'm at. I can honestly say I don't know. And that being said, being here, I've learned so much from all the speakers. It really has been a pleasure. And yeah, all right. So I say I don't know, but however. So what does the content of artificial intelligence for gaming class look like? So we start with what is game AI, and that's the illusion of intelligence. So in that chapter, we talk about how really with gaming, it's all about making it seem like it's intelligent, but we're not going to cover things like generative AI, machine learning, a lot of different algorithms there, all the different types of search. We're not going to get into detail there. It's just so much with artificial intelligence. So setting the tone that we're talking the illusion of intelligence. That being said, we do focus on some things that lead to assignments that then they can use and build into their final game. So, oh my goodness, I'm running low on time already. Okay, we'll speed things up. So, finite state machines, there we're just using conditionals, switch statements. We do things like patrol, chase, attack, evade, things like that. We do randomness and probability, so we might do an assignment where it's a slot machine, so they learn randomness and probability. NPCs and branching narratives, this is where we've evolved, and I'll get into that in a second. But previously what we'd do is we'd use Ink by Inkle Studios. It's great narrative scripting language, and you can do all of your narrative in your game, and there's Unity plugins, and you can create some really cool NPCs with that. We use Unity's nav mesh, A-star pathfinding to again create that smart AI agent that's going to come and get you. And then procedural content generation and fuzzy logic. Okay, so this is where we've evolved. This is what my classes look like now. So we get into NPCs and branching narratives, and we start with a brief intro in the generative to AI, what is game AI section. So before I get into the actual Unity assignment, I want to show you all some student feedback from that assignment. First, my favorite experience is trying to narrow the scope of what a chatbot can say reference. I would most likely use it for a project that multiple characters that warrant more lifelike experiences, but not anytime soon. I most enjoyed messing with different prompts that we controlled with the LLMs and breaking them. But this brings concerns of LLMs in games, as ultimately they can be unpredictable and could take a rated teen game to a rated mature game pretty quick. I'm kind of concerned that we might slowly rely on it more and more and won't be able to come up with the original ideas of our own. This is kind of a long one. Having NPCs who can respond to whatever the player says could add really interesting dynamics to dialogue. It'll require a lot of testing to make sure that NPCs don't respond with anything inappropriate, but with proper testing and making sure that LLM is able to direct conversations where they need to go, it could help players feel more immersed in the game. I enjoyed playing around with parameters of the LLM. I'm keen to use LLMs in future games to boost NPC dialogue and storytelling. My main concerns are performance and unpredictable outcomes. So this was feedback after what we did in class. We downloaded a local open source model. We did Llama 3.2. And using a Unity asset, we, and I'll get into which one it was, we were able to then import that model into the game and handle dialogue. And we had some fun with NPCs. I'm hoping that this will pique your interest, that you look into these things like open source models. Ollama is a great website where you can download models. Once you download Ollama in the terminal, you can download various models, and then you can run them straight in the command line. And we'll get into that in a second. So if we wanted to modify that model to get it to behave a certain way, we could do a simple model file where we focus on a few things: the system, the temperature, the top P, the top K, and the repeat penalty. Now, the values here and the prompt, "you are a helpful NPC that always responds the same way," is going to be very, it's not going to be very creative and kind of boring, and it's just going to be straight to the point, kind of conservative. So what does that do? You modify these things. Like in this case, I don't want an NPC that's boring. I want an NPC that's a farmer in my game. So here, notice that I put, "You're a humble farmer living in a peaceful village. You love to talk about crops, seasons, livestock, and daily life on the farm. You don't know much about the outside world beyond farming." And then I changed the temperature to 0.4, top P to 0.8, top K to 40, and repetition penalty 1.2. So those are the things that you tweak to make your AI model that you're using for the NPCs a little more interesting. So I do want to show you a brief Unity demo here, and just so you can see what they did. And I want to make sure that we give props to the person who created this. LLM for Unity, it's an asset store in the Unity asset store, and it's great. So just by downloading this, you're then able to use the Unity plugin and tinker around with it. So I'm going to close out of this for a second. Okay, here we go. So this is a sample that's already, oh, I guess I got to change the screen mirroring. Okay. So this is, I'm running this in Unity right now, and by default, if I ask it something like, we're going to keep this simple, "Who are you?" And this is all done locally. This isn't connected to the internet. That's another thing that, so here it's just telling us it's a language model, talking about its capabilities, how can I help you? Well, this isn't going to help me if I want it to create, if I want it to be behind an NPC that's like a farmer, right? So the cool thing, what I just showed you with the model file where you're creating the system dialogue, the temperatures, and all that, with this plugin, they have it nice and neat in the inspector, so students can do this assignment in class. This is a great assignment to do in your class because this whole thing could take less than an hour. But here we have a chat between curious human, ... right? So if I wanted to change it to be that farmer, say, you are a farmer that knows nothing about the outside world, but you always want to sell corn. Always respond asking if they want to buy corn. Want to buy corn after answering their prompt. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And through the magic of this asset, now I'm back to the same scene, but I can say, who are you? I'm just a simple farmer living on my farm out in the fields. I grow all sorts of crops, but my pride and joy is corn. There's nothing better than seeing that golden yellow crop stretching out as far as the eye can see. Say, would you like to buy some corn? I've got a fresh batch just waiting to be sold. And let's do, who is the best Batman actor? We'll just ask it who the best Batman actor is. Well, he doesn't know anything about the Batman actor. Now, the correct answer is Michael Keaton, but the farmer would not know that. All right. Using this tool, that's what they gave feedback on, and you saw how it's kind of all over the place. There's that fear that that AI is like, oh man, it's like it's taking the creativity away, and then others are like, yeah, I'd like to explore this a little more. But this is the way that I've introduced generative AI into my artificial intelligence classes, is introducing generative AI, mainly the local open source models, because there's so many out there. I will say that there was let's pull this up, get back to my presentation, which is almost over. So there was, the classes, they were having fun with it. They were trying to break the LLMs, which they successfully did. But there was one that was really funny, and I kind of wrote it down. Let's see. Yeah, so the gist of it was, rather than putting in like, you're a farmer, it was, you're a game development instructor who does not know current slang, but tries really hard to be cool. Not going to brag, or was it, no, not, yeah, they say they're not going to admit it, but they are not cool. And I was kind of offended because I try to use the current slang in my classes, and yeah, anyways, they entered that into the Unity system prompt for the LLM, and they're like, oh my God, Aragon, this sounds just like you. And yeah, it was very accurate. No cap, right? But yeah, this is a kind of a little preview that I recreated. Who are you? Yo, what's good, fam? I'm your boy, Instructor Vinny. I didn't say Aragon there, but they're about dropping knowledge and all that. And then on a serious note, yeah, I'll leave that up there a little bit for y'all to see. I've seen it all go from 8-bit to 4K. No. But then on a serious note, I was like, okay, well, can you explain fuzzy logic to me? Yo, let me break down fuzzy logic for you, my dude. Clear his throat. No. So it is kind of neat to see it like that as well, because in terms of education, AI can definitely be used as a tool and like a personal tutor for students. Of course, you have to have those guardrails. So I'm going to close with this because I know I'm at 4:02. I want to encourage you to experiment when these things come out. I have, like I mentioned, like I work full-time at the library. I teach part-time at Georgia State. I teach part-time at Gwinnett Tech. I have 2 daughters who are at home alone. They're 10 and they're 5. There's food on the ground. There's water on the ground. They will be fine. They're cats. Just want to make that clear. But I tell them that if I can find time to try to stay up to date with what's going on, then they should as well. Because ultimately, when they graduate, the students who are familiar with what's happening in AI and can speak to it and have messed around with it are going to be much more valuable than those who just graduated and avoided AI because they're, they just didn't feel like they were ready for it. You got to be ready for it. You got to be curious. So I will end with that. I do have one more slide. Thank you. Oh, stay up here. The other mic. Oh, we're doing questions. Oh, man.
I'll let you get it without questions, plus Bob's still another 5 minutes out.
Okay.
So as I run it through here, first question for you. I love the tools you give the students for it, and I like the parameters that are set up there, like temperature, et cetera. Any other parameters you wish they had in that tool?
Any
Like
other parameters?
Et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've given that a lot of thought, and I'm sure there might be a way when I open the script that's attached to that game object that has all that. But definitely the top P, and the reason for that is that's really what a low value makes it, I guess, more creative, and a higher value makes it more predictable. So if you crank up, like for example, that farmer, and you increase that value, then the farmer is probably going to lean on their objective of selling that corn harder than answering the question. They're going to be less creative. So that's one that I think would be neat. And I'm sure you can probably do it. Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us more about the AI tool, the plugin? Like, what are the other settings that is accessible? Do you know? Like,
for the one I showed in Unity?
Yeah, for the plugin, like, because I know there are different distilled versions of Llama. Like, do you have the chance to like choose whichever one you want to choose based on like the resources that are available?
Yeah, absolutely. So the neat thing, and again, I can't get into the depth of it because I've just recently started playing around with it, but the cool thing with Ollama, you can download multiple models. So there's like Mistral, Ollama, there's DeepSeek, there's all of them that you can download. Some have already been trained. But the cool thing is with Ollama, that you can run from the terminal where you can make these model files. Like for example, this farmer here, I can save this as the model file, and using the prompt, the terminal, I can create a new model, which is Llama, but with these parameters. And then that model, I can then put in that LLM for Unity plugin. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot to it that I don't know, though.
And I'm sorry, I psyched you out about more questions. Our next speaker is here. So thank you again, Fernando. Great stuff, and I know there are a lot of questions on it. Bob, come on up.
So one more thing, I want to mention the game jam again. So one of the things that I have my students do at the end of all of my classes is they have to make a final project. They build up to a final game with what they've learned. And in the spring, I strategically have it to where they start their final project when the game jam theme is announced. And then it's due right before the game jam is done accepting entries, so it goes for 6 weeks. So if you go to the Gwinnett County Public Library's itch.io page for the game jam, and I'll give out some flyers, you can play some of those games. There's quite a bit of students' games from this semester, so I hope you guys make it out on May 3rd. And I look forward to talking to y'all more after this.
Thank you. Yay.